Live from WSIL TV, continuing coverage after the storm.
As soon as you get close to the Walmart area right here, it's just awful. I mean, just shock more than anything.
We have suffered the loss of lives, we've suffered many injuries, and we've suffered millions of dollars worth of damage.
Folks in Harrisburg stunned tonight after a massive tornado levels parts of the town. Good evening. That early morning storm caused damage to other areas of southern Illinois as well, including areas south of Marion. Creel Springs and Ridgeway were also hit hard. But the majority of the damage is centered in Harrisburg, where the National Weather Service says an EF4 tornado touched down around 5 o'clock this morning. The Saline County Sheriff's Office is reporting that 6 people are confirmed dead and an estimated 100 injured. The twister damaged or destroyed 250 to 300 homes and 25 businesses across the city. When seen from the air, the devastation becomes instantly apparent. The Harrisburg Police Chief, Bob Smith, has issued a curfew for tonight. The curfew begins at 6 and lasts until 6 tomorrow morning. Smith also warned against would-be looters, saying they will be prosecuted. Harrisburg Fire Chief Bill Summers describes parts of the city as looking like a war zone. First responders from many neighboring towns immediately came in to help after that storm. And at an afternoon news conference, Harrisburg Mayor Eric Gregg promised his city will rebuild.
And the sirens were blaring. And I had a heart, just a gut feeling that something dreadfully was wrong. And unfortunately, those thoughts come to pass. And we have devastation in our community that like we've never seen. We can deal with floods. We can deal with lots of other things, but dealing with a tornado like this is heartbreaking.
Mayor Gregg says city officials are doing everything they can to protect citizens. He says the city will make sure everyone is accounted for. As we said, dozens of Harrisburg businesses are gone, at least the buildings are. News 3's Fana Haile Selassie was in Harrisburg most of the day and says the damage is unimaginable.
What used to be the newest strip mall in town now lies in a massive pile of rubble.
It seemed like it hit one line and just took everything out down on this side of town.
That line moved east down the south side of Harrisburg, taking out Old National Bank, parts of Walmart, and the new strip mall that held stores like the Dollar Tree, GameStop, and Hibbett Sports.
It left the spade, it took the handle, and took the stick.
And those unfortunate enough to be in that storm line say it was a scare they don't care to go through again.
I was parked over there, and then the lights went out, and next thing I know, it just slammed me up top of the roof.
I put my seatbelt on because I thought I'm next. You could hear the just crunching and banging, and then I shined a flashlight over here, and I saw him, so I turned my truck around, put my headlights on him, so I could see, and I got up on top of the truck and opened the driver's door and got him out.
What was running through your head?
When I stopped, I guess I was thinking, good, I'm alive.
For hours, residents stood in awe at the damage caused, many still in their pajamas.
I've never seen a tornado here at all.
It didn't take long, though, for neighbors to move to action, flooding law enforcement and emergency agencies with volunteer aid. But with damage like this, the recovery will be a long one.
They're pretty much devastated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, it's not really sunk in yet.
In Harrisburg, Fana Haile Selassie, News 3.
Walmart supervisors in Harrisburg did not know the extent of their damage. They were waiting for corporate crews to come in and do assessments. Fana reports significant damage to the front doors and windows of that store, but no one was allowed inside that building. The Harrisburg Medical Center was running on generators all morning after also receiving tornado damage. With more than 100 people injured, the hospital filled up quickly. Patients were transferred to Heartland Medical Center in Marion, Heron Hospital, and other area hospitals. Harrisburg hospital officials say they're evacuating all patients except those in the ER. Officials say damage estimates to their facility are in the millions of dollars, and it will be weeks or even months before the hospital will be fully up and running. CEO Vince Ashley says all of the heating and air conditioning equipment on the roof is simply gone.
We had 3 patient rooms, had the outside walls completely ripped off. We had 4 more patient rooms where the windows were sucked out.
Construction crews were on scene all afternoon, surveying damage to the hospital. Continuing our team coverage, News 3's Emily Finnegan is also in Harrisburg. She attended this afternoon's news conference, and she joins us live now with the latest. Emily?
Well, Mark, we're here at that strip mall that Fauna mentioned that was just completely decimated near the Harrisburg Walmart. We're going to give you another look at that damage. There are utility crews, more and more of them showing up by the minute in the neighborhoods in this area. All those big utility trucks with the cherry pickers are arriving. But most of the cleanup effort of people, because we did see a lot of people out helping their neighbors and trying to start to sift through that rubble, most of that has wrapped up at this point tonight because of the curfew that you mentioned that's coming up in a little less than an hour. Harrisburg officials will not be allowing anyone into the damage zone to kind of help keep all those damaged areas protected. Now, when the tornado tore through early this morning, it destroyed some of the homes completely, all the way down to their foundations. And in the same neighborhood, others were left with minor damage and some totally unscathed. News 3's Stephanie Tierpak was here early this morning in those neighborhoods, and she has that story.
You know, this is a heartbreaking situation in Harrisburg. You know, the loss of life, the injuries, you know, the devastation to the south end of our city is just, it's profound.
The reaction moments after the powerful tornado tore through town was shock.
Oh, it looked like a bomb went off. I cannot believe it.
You know, just like it was in Joplin, just like it was everywhere, just shock.
But even in the midst of shock, neighbors and emergency crews began digging through the rubble for survivors.
And they ended up getting in the bathtub and making it, and some people looks like maybe didn't. So
we're going to be working around the clock to make sure we've got everybody accounted for. Whatever it takes is what we're going to do.
For blocks east of Walmart took the brunt of the storm.
Just absolutely devastating. Millions of dollars worth of damages.
Oh, it's destroyed. The house is destroyed. It's completely, he lost everything.
The Brady Apartments took one of the hardest hits in Harrisburg, with several homes seriously damaged and no less than 3 houses completely torn from their foundation.
But most of them are gonna have to come down. I would say it's, you know, almost a total loss. I mean, these are obviously a total loss.
Got a guy underneath. City leaders estimate more than 250 homes were damaged or destroyed by the high winds, but those are buildings that can be replaced.
But the loss of life and the injuries are just, you know, that's what I'm dealing with today, and in a community that we're, you know, we're going to be in mourning today. So.
From searching through the destruction with hands, chainsaws, and heavy machinery, and helping any way they could.
He went with one of the neighbors and they gave him some shoes and stuff to put on his feet.
Residents and the outpouring of volunteers spent long hours working to make a tragic situation easier to bear.
When it hits in the middle of the night like that, or early morning like that, people are asleep. You know, it's just, it's devastating when you have a horrific event like this, a tornado that comes through in the early morning hours.
In Saline County, Stephanie Tierpak, News 3.
And Mark, the city is going to issue permits to anyone looking to come in and help do repairs or rebuilding. That's in part to help cut down on any efforts of scam artists to target the storm victims, and also to just kind of help city leaders keep track of who is coming in and out of Harrisburg. We're, of course, going to have continuing live coverage for you from Harrisburg throughout the night. We'll be taking a look at the volunteer effort and also heading to the storm shelters to see what we can learn from residents who are there.
Emily, you mentioned earlier the curfew. We've talked about that a little bit. How will that affect people traveling through the city tonight, possibly going to work or area ball games or some other event?
Sure. Well, that curfew is only for the damage zone areas. So for the most part, all the main thoroughfares are completely unaffected. That shouldn't be a problem. And if you happen to live in one of those homes that we mentioned that was unscathed in a neighborhood where there was a lot of other damage, the police have set up checkpoints. And so when you get there, you can clear that with them and should be able to get to your home just fine.
And you mentioned there are several shelters set up around the community for people who don't have a home to go to tonight?
Yes, there are. The Red Cross has a shelter set up in a local church. Our Kristen Crawley is over there speaking with people now, and really just the incredible community effort. As we were driving down 45 today, there are tents set up with free food for people. Some of the local churches are doing that. It's just been really kind of incredible to see how willing people are to help out their friends and neighbors that were affected.
A great outpouring tonight. Thank you, Emily. We'll have more coverage of damage in Harrisburg ahead, plus stories from Ridgeway and other areas hit hard by this morning's storms. But first, Jim's weather forecast when we return.
Accuracy first. This is News 3 weather.
This morning's storm, a perfect example of why we say things like there's a small chance we might see some severe weather, but we all need to be aware. We did have a line of damage from this thunderstorm activity from near Alto Pass to Ridgeway. But of course, the worst concentrated around Harrisburg. By tornado standards, relatively minor damage through northern parts of Union County and southern Williamson County. Certainly small and no loss of life or injury there. But then for a brief time and a relatively narrow path for a larger tornado in Harrisburg. Just unfortunate that it dropped the worst right there. But that's why when we talk about these situations, we all need to be aware and be aware of updated forecasts. And I can already tell you the next time we see numbers similar to what we had this morning, Friday afternoon, we see similar numbers, that it's too disorganized to say absolutely for sure here they come. But I have to tell you, there's that chance we could see severe weather again on Friday. We start with radar because it has cleared out. We go to temperatures and see that there is a lot of warm air out there. Behind a cold front, temperatures running in the low 70s, 68 degrees in Mount Vernon, the one exception. Those are high temperatures today. Temperatures starting to fall off a little bit this afternoon. Poplar Bluff, though, still holding on at 70 degrees. Very gusty winds right now as well. West to southwest, 25 to 30 mile an hour winds, and we could see some gusts topping that. They'll start to come down right around sunset. The cold air behind the front is hanging way back, 38 in Omaha, 45 in Chicago. South of us, Little Rock is still reporting 77. The storms continue to move away from us, still very strong, but not as strong as what we saw through here off to the north, dealing with a little bit of snow. Also pick up counterclockwise rotation. We talked about the core of the energy going that direction, and we would deal with the front. Exactly what happened. Satellite, the only thing we're looking at here is clearing skies. The clear skies will lead to some cool temperatures overnight as well, because some of that cold air is going to wrap around. Off to the west, already two lows, again very disorganized. Warm air building ahead of it that will be warm, humid air, and part of the equation that we're looking at for that chance for storms again on Friday. Temperatures for us today much warmer than normal, 57 to 71. 68 degrees currently in DuQuoin, about a ½ inch in the rain gauge. Big wind gust there today, 45 miles an hour. Skycast, we watch the line of storms move away. Mostly clear skies. Tomorrow looks like a beautiful sunny day. But then Friday, here comes the energy straight up out of the Gulf of Mexico, right on top of us. Looks like all afternoon Friday. Looking like one of these instances where we'll watch warm, humid air move in from the south all day, and then a cold front, and a strong cold front, smack right into it. And then that will bring the chance for thunderstorms, and it looks like a really focused Friday afternoon. For tonight, winds will calm down after sunset, but it's still going to be a little bit breezy. Temperatures falling off. Looks like a low tonight around 39. High tomorrow, maybe up to 64 as winds turn back out of the south, with a lot of sunshine expected tomorrow. The chance for storms moving in on Friday. And once again, we're looking at one of those big drops in temperatures, maybe into the 70s Friday afternoon ahead of the cold front. Behind the front, 37 by Saturday morning, maybe 33 by Sunday morning. Very strong winds expected, even without thunderstorms, Friday, Saturday, and likely on into Sunday. But again, Mark, parts of those equations already showing up for Friday that we may see another round of severe weather, if not right on top of us, somewhere close to us Friday afternoon.
I know we'll be paying attention to updates from you tonight and again tomorrow.
We'll just keep posting them.
All right, thanks, Jim. We have been taking calls all day long from people asking how they can help. The American Red Cross Little Egypt Network in Murfreesboro is accepting financial donations for the victims in Harrisburg. Also, V&A Tip Healthcare has set up several of their Southern Illinois offices as drop sites for donations. There is one location on Express Drive in Marion, two in Murfreesboro on Chestnut and Walnut Street. one on West Church Street in Benton, another on Lee Drive in Anna, and finally on Main Street in Pinckneyville. The American Red Cross says at this time the blood supply is okay, but based on the number of injuries, they expect an increase in need. If you are able to donate, please contact the Red Cross. Continuing coverage of this morning's tornado is straight ahead, including a live update from Harrisburg.
You're watching News 3 in HD, your Southern Illinois news leader, with Mark Kiesling, meteorologist Jim Razor, and Darren Kennard.
Continuing coverage tonight on this morning's strong storms, again based on preliminary information, an EF4 tornado with winds around 170 miles per hour struck Harrisburg. And that's where we find News 3's Kristen Drew tonight. She has the very latest. Kristen?
Well, Mark, it was at this afternoon's press conference when we first heard from the National Weather Service, and we heard them say they believe it was an EF4 that devastated the southeast portion of town. Now, the coroner says so far there are 6 confirmed fatalities. That includes 4 women and 2 men, all adults. Ameren officials were also on hand to say 3,000 customers are still without power here in Harrisburg, but that's way down from the 9,000 outages they were dealing with this morning. Power officials admit there is one section of town that's so bad they haven't been able to reach it yet with their equipment. They expect all power to be restored to homes still standing by Friday. Now, that extended darkness has officials worried about looting. Already, folks have been seen loading sheet metal into trailers and taking it in for scrap. This afternoon, police warned that will no longer be tolerated. They also say no one will be allowed to do repair work here in Harrisburg unless they bring a form of identification and the proper paperwork.
Anyone caught inside our perimeter or doing any looting or junking, which is taking the aluminum from the buildings and things, that is caught doing that will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. These things are done not to try to hamper the recovery process, but to speed up the recovery process and also take care of our citizens here in Harrisburg. We don't want agencies coming in here promising things, taking money and not delivering.
Police have set up command centers at the Rural King and the SIC Foundation building. Work permits can be obtained there after a company is checked out by police. And once again, Harrisburg has established a curfew that will be beginning within the hour. That starts at 6 p.m. and lasts until 6 a.m. Tonight we're live in Harrisburg. Kristen Drew, News 3.
Crews are also cleaning up Ridgeway after this morning's storm. Among the buildings seeing major damage was a town landmark, the St. Joseph Catholic Church. News 3's Sam Smith has more on how Ridgeway is responding after the storm.
The road to Ridgeway is littered with debris and downed power lines.
We've had major damage. We have declared it a state of emergency, trying to keep people out of Ridgeway. Spectators, so we can get our emergency personnel in here to do the work.
The town suffered damage to more than 25 homes and its business district, but possibly its biggest loss, the town's 140-year-old Catholic church.
It is gone, with the exception that our marble altar is still intact. It's a devastating loss, not only to the Catholics of Gallatin County, but to the whole community.
Officials report no deaths following the storm, but emergency volunteers who went door to door checking on residents say there were close calls.
Their whole double wide was picked up, moved across the road, and set down.
The Ridgeway Volunteer Fire Department did come up here with equipment and pick part of the trailer up to get one of the babies out from underneath the trailer.
The father of the baby told me the child should be fine. The Ridgeway Fire Department has a command post set up at the fire station. The post will provide shelter, food, and general information for storm victims.
The town will be basically have a curfew, and if you don't live here, it's in such bad shape that they're not letting anybody in that's not a resident or an emergency worker.
Crews will continue to clean up and repair the town after the worst storm in the town's history. No other major damage was reported in Gallatin County. In Ridgeway, Sam Smith, News 3.
We also saw storm damage in places like Creel Springs. We'll take you there next.
Live from WSIL TV, continuing coverage after the storm.
As we pointed out earlier, the storm also hit parts of Williamson County. Creel Springs was one of the first places we surveyed today. That community was also hit pretty hard. Steve Land with Williamson County EMA says 16 structures sustained major damage, including the 4-star arena. Homeowner Steve Walker says the storm came on incredibly fast.
She come in the bedroom, got me. We woke up the kids, went straight down to the basement, and I mean, it happened just like that. I mean, we wasn't down there 3 minutes when it hit.
Steve Land says 2 people in Creel Springs received minor injuries. Other parts of Williamson County also saw damage from the storm. The path of destruction included around a dozen barns and several homes that sustained significant damage. Residents were awakened by those storms around 4:30 this morning and soon discovered debris scattered about. Dalton Funk and his family lived in this mobile home before he woke up and rushed to wake his family.
Well, I was just sleeping like it was a normal day, and I woke up to the whole house shaking, and I got up, just ran to my mom's room.
Funk said that he and his family took cover in the closet and hoped they would survive the destruction. Electric companies soon swarmed in to restore power. They'll hopefully have that restored by tonight. We'll have another check of weather coming up next. The schedules for the area boys basketball sectionals have been adjusted due to the weather. The Cesar-Valier Crab Orchard game scheduled for tonight at the Gallatin County 1A sectional is on, but it has been moved to NCOE High School. The championship game is expected to be back at Gallatin County Friday night. The Harrisburg-Benton game scheduled for the El Dorado 2A sectional has been postponed until tomorrow night. The winner of that game will face Pinckneyville in the sectional championship game, which will now be played at 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon by agreement of the 3 schools still involved. And Jim is already keeping an eye on possible storms coming in Friday.
We are moving into that season. Tomorrow is March. We've been thinking about this for a while. We look at the 4-day, really focused on Friday. Chance of storms showing up there. If you don't have a weather radio yet, this morning a good reminder, get a weather radio.
That's right. And we'll have much more coverage of the Harrisburg tornado coming your way at 6 on News 3. A weather radio can save your life during severe weather, especially when the storm hits overnight. But it's also important to have that radio programmed for your area. And that's what our weather team is doing today in Harrisburg. Jim Razor joins us live from the Harrisburg Kroger. And Jim, what kind of crowd are you seeing out there today?
It has been a steady crowd all day long, Mark. Folks have been here. We've been here since 9 o'clock this morning, and all during the day. There's been at least one person at the table. Never have we been completely without someone to help, and sometimes it's just to chat with about what the weather radio can do for them. Of course, we're back in Harrisburg 3 weeks after the storm went through. We've heard from folks that lost everything. I talked to one lady this afternoon that lost everything. She's coming in today to get a weather radio, make sure it's programmed so the next time there's a risk, she has something that can wake her up in the middle of the night and let her know that there is a risk of severe weather coming her way. And anybody else that picks up a radio, that's what it's for. The reason we're out helping program, it's not hard to do, but we can help. We can save you a lot of time. We've had a big crew out here today, and we can whittle that down to just your county. Everybody complains about a weather radio. It goes off all night, and then the next thing you know, you turn it off, you unplug it, you throw it in a drawer, and it's no good there. And that's why we're programming for specific county, whatever county you live in. We set it up, it goes off for that county, and you're alerted day or night, 24 hours a day. Whether you live close to a siren or not doesn't matter. Those go off when the National Weather Service issues advisories for your area. So we have seen a good steady flow. They tell me we're somewhere around another 500 radios just from today that are in circulation. And in the last couple of weeks here in Harrisburg, another 400 to 500 have been sold. So about 1,000 radios in the last couple of weeks just here in Harrisburg. We had similar numbers in Marion. So it's
Live in Carterville at Christmas in Carterville, and we brought out our mobile weather lab, and this thing is pretty neat. It has a weather sensor on it where it can give you all of the latest information. And what's the coolest thing about all of this instrumentation, and this is what you've been seeing at the local elementary schools, some businesses, you know, we get a lot of our information from local airports, and that's great, but nobody lives at the airport and nobody goes to Christmas celebrations at the airport. So we can give you the information where things are actually happening, and right now we have the current up-to-date information here at our site. And let's throw up the graphics so you can actually see that a little bit better. Right now the temperature is 60 degrees here in Carterville, and we have a very calm wind, so it feels very comfortable out there, and of course very dry air as well. So we're actually...
Meteorologist Nick Housen is on the Hill in Marion with more on conditions for those who do have to hit the roads this morning. Nick, what are you seeing?
Well, I'll tell you what, it has just been miserable out here, really for the last hour or so. The winds are just relentless. We've seen wind gusts 25, 30 miles an hour. We're here with the mobile weather lab. Let's see how high we've had as a maximum wind gust. You can see we've had a wind gust up to 34 miles an hour, and it is just causing problems across the region with blowing snow. The road crews are out in full force, but they're having a hard time keeping up with it, and that's due because as soon as they get all the snow removed, more blows in there. We're going to scan out over here. You can see kind of all the snow around. You can kind of see some of that blowing around as well. We're starting to see some snow drifts develop. Also, as I mentioned, you know, the snow is a big deal. We're seeing some very high totals, but the wind just seems like it's the big story. It's kind of calmed down here just a little bit. Earlier, I was just getting pounded in the face constantly with more and more snow just hitting me.
Well, it is Friday night, time for some football and some food donations. This season, at our Spotlight Games of the Week, we're asking for your help sacking hunger. News 3's Emily Finnegan is live in Johnston City tonight with the story. Emily.
Eden, we started our food drive campaign last week with a lot of success, and we just want to keep building on that tonight. We're less than an hour away from the start of the game, so if you're coming out to see the Indians take on Carmi White County tonight, we're asking you to please bring a sack of non-perishable food with you. And all of the food that we collect tonight, as we've been telling you all this week, is going to stay right here in Johnston City. It's going to the First United Methodist Church Food Pantry. Each month, that group helps make sure that more than 200 Williamson County residents have food to put on their table. And they say their job is getting harder. The need just keeps growing, and they want to be able to keep helping people. Any food that you can give tonight will really go a long way. The pastor told us this week there is no donation too small to help make a difference. We've already seen a whole lot of generosity from football fans tonight from both schools, and you still have time to get out here and see a great game. It's the very first one in this brand new beautiful facility, and you can help out a really great cause at the same time. So come on out and see us. Reporting live in Johnston City, Emily Finnegan, News 3.
Okay, Emily, thank you.
WSIL is working to help people in our region who are looking for a job. That's why, along with Ren Lake College, the Jefferson County Chamber of Commerce, and the Illinois Small Business Development Center, we're hosting our job search party tonight at the Holiday Inn in Mount Vernon. The goal is to bring together dozens of local employers, all looking to hire. News 3's Kristen Drew has more.
Statistics say that the unemployment rate in Illinois is improving, and we are seeing some encouraging signs at our job search party here in Mount Vernon. In fact, we have 50 employers with booths set up, all looking to hire. That's the most we've ever had.
I've been with the company over 32 years. I've supported my family. A lot of the other people out there, I mean, they've made a career out of it.
Bob Shirley with Continental Tire in Mount Vernon has already taken dozens of applications within the first hour. It's a good thing because the employer has more than 100 openings right now.
We have quite a few job openings, shop floor, engineers, setup techs.
Mark Hoover with Prairie State Generating in Marissa is looking for coal miners with and without experience.
If folks are qualified, we can get them in sooner than later. If they're not qualified, we have avenues that they can go through to become qualified to be a coal miner.
And with the expansion of St. Mary's Good Sam in Mount Vernon, the hospital is looking for those in the healthcare profession.
When we move to the new hospital, we're going to have a lot more openings for RNs and CNAs.
The party runs until 7 tonight, so if you're looking for a job opportunity, this is the place to be. Again, we're at the Holiday Inn in Mount Vernon. Kristen Drew, News 3.
1 year after the devastating floods of 2011, people in southern Illinois were dealing with a far different problem. The amount of rain we saw in April, May, and June combined was less than we typically see in the month of April alone.
Brown yards are popping up across the region, dried out and burnt, and it's only the middle of May. A little relief came today in the form of rain, but much more is needed to make concerns over lake levels go away.
If you look at, say, what the lake level has done over the past 30 years, we're about 6 inches below what we would normally expect for this time of the year.
By late June, the U.S. Department of Agriculture had classified the drought as extreme, and local farmers were seeing the effects.
We could still make some corn if we got the rain, but if not, this tasseling corn's not going to make anything.
God will send the rain upon the parched fields and the crops.
Western Kentucky residents are testing the power of prayer.
There's a lot of verses in the scriptures that talk about how God sends rain and answers prayer by sending rain, and the people in our community need it.
By July, officials raised the drought level to exceptional, the worst possible classification. Counties issued burn bans, extinguishing many 4th of July events throughout the area.
There's just too many possibilities and no reason I see right now that we can't wait until it's safer to do it.
Ow! Ow! It's unbearable, but we can just deal with it.
The drought also brought extreme heat. Record-breaking temperatures only made matters worse for farmers and livestock.
Pastures are brown. Ponds are drying up.
Now this pond usually is up here.
And crops aren't growing. And it has farmers like Louis Fossey stressing about what to do next.
How I'm going to feed them, where I'm going to feed them. Am I going to have to put them in a dry lot?
The drought prompted the USDA to open Conservation Reserve Program, or CRP, land for emergency haying and grazing in more than a dozen southern Illinois counties. And Governor Quinn announced a plan to allow farmers to apply for low-interest loans.
We count on our farmers and our men and women in agriculture to help us. We're going to help you when you need a helping hand.
They're not offering money. They're just not going to send us a check. They're going to offer low-interest loans, stretch them out 10, 20 years, but we'll still have to pay everything back that they give us. It's like going to work every morning knowing you're not going to get a paycheck.
By August, some communities were facing the possibility of running out of water. Pinckneyville asked residents to voluntarily reduce their water usage.
Where I'm standing right now is typically covered with water. The lake levels are down roughly 3 feet, and that may not seem like a lot considering the lake rests on more than 200 acres of land. But city officials say it's very concerning.
And when it came time for the corn harvest, many farmers came up empty-handed.
I am expecting at some fields that we will have nothing in, zero.
This field probably will be just chopped up for hay for the cows. That's all it's good for.
Food pantries also felt the drought's impact. Local gardeners couldn't afford to give pantries extra produce.
During this time of year, typically the Ministerial Alliance's warehouse is packed with food, coming up to at least shoulder height. But now all it's really seeing are empty boxes.
Autumn rains couldn't erase the drought conditions. Last month, the Army Corps of Engineers began reducing the amount of water released from the Missouri River, lowering water levels on the Mississippi. Those low levels are restricting barge traffic from St. Louis to Cairo.
We're dealing with nature and the forces of nature.
This is going to be felt for years and years to come.
A West Frankfort soldier severely injured in Afghanistan is taking major steps in his recovery.
Chaz Legan has been going through rehab at an Army hospital in Texas for the past 5 months since he nearly lost his life in a roadside bombing. News 3's Kristen Crawley recently visited Legan in San Antonio and brings us his story.
When the war on terror began on September 11th, 2001, future Army Corporal Chaz Legan was just 10 years old.
It touched him that he needed to go and protect our country.
Years before, Legan's mother, Suzanne Wilmore, remembers he had an infatuation with the Army, even dressing up as a soldier for Halloween.
Oh, did he ask to be that for Halloween?
Yes. And that's actually his gun there.
Nearly a decade before he enlisted, Legan knew what he wanted to do with his life.
I wanted to join the Army because my grandpa, he was infantry in the Army, so that made me want to be infantry in the Army.
In 2010, that desire became reality. Chaz enlisted with the U.S. Army and spent a tour in Afghanistan. He had several close calls with explosions, but always ended up walking away with just a few scratches or bruises.
I was young, and I just had that mindset like, no, it won't happen to me. It won't happen to me. And it happened to me.
On December 11th, 2011, Legan's life changed forever.
The last IED, this last one, it's horrible. I remember parts of it. My gunner, he lost his leg. All 3 guys in the back died. My best friend during deployment died.
A routine drive turned deadly. The truck Legan was riding in hit a road sign bomb.
We had an anti-tank missile, like a rocket launcher. It was underneath their seat, so when the IED went off, that missile went off too.
Legan lost his left leg, broke his right leg in half, suffered serious burns, and a traumatic brain injury.
At that point, we didn't know if Chaz was even going to make it.
His mother rushed to meet her son at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. He finally stabilized. Doctors expected a long and painful recovery and predicted it would take nearly a year for him to get back on his feet. But on our visit, Legan had a remarkable surprise for us. The soldier, who was clinging to life just 5 months ago, is now walking all on his own.
I'm recovering a lot faster than expected.
A halo holds together his shattered right leg.
You can step on it all you want and it keeps the bones in line. Like the bones will not leave.
Burns and wounds to his flesh have now turned to scars.
I can keep this stuff on my face, kind of as like a badge of honor, like I didn't want to get it removed, but I gotta get this stuff removed off my hand.
And a prosthetic left leg is now a part of him.
It's really comfortable. It's molded to my leg. Yeah. So it's not just like a prosthetic, it's molded. It's custom made for me.
Last March, his mother had to leave Chaz's side to return to work. The last time she saw him, he was confined to a wheelchair. He never told her he could walk on his own. We decided to surprise her with this video.
Oh. He's come a long way.
The video brings on a wave of emotions as she watches her only child tackle a huge hurdle.
I'm just so thankful he's alive. A lot of parents don't have that opportunity to be thankful because their son or daughter is gone.
Legan speaks candidly about what he's going through. Despite his brave face, there's no denying his injuries are still incredibly painful. And there's no doubt about the impact these injuries have had on his life.
I was sitting there working out the other day, and I had to lean up against the wall, and I turned back around, and I was looking at it, and I was like, it's just weird looking at it, because I was like, man, there's no way I can leave this room without that leg.
Despite Legan's perseverance through physical injuries, another challenge is proving far more difficult to overcome, a dark cloud that's overshadowing his recent accomplishments. Join us tomorrow night as we bring you part 2 of Legan's story, where we'll show you more on this healing hero.
Some people want to be part of the rebuild and kind of see this thing come back together. Other people were so traumatized by the devastation that they don't want to look out their kitchen window every day and see what used to be full of trees to a barren landscape.
Business for Joplin builders Tony and Gary Philpott has picked up during the last few months.
Obviously, when you lose 4,000 plus houses, there's going to be a lot of activity.
The family company, Sherwood Forest Homes, is behind a dozen house and office construction projects, with many people choosing to go green and build safe, using energy-efficient materials.
It's a heavy gauge steel door.
And concrete tornado shelters. Building for the May 22nd survivors comes with its rewards.
The lady just down the street, on our walk through with her, gave us a big hug.
And its challenges.
The fact that they're having to put up with the headache of actually building a new home that they had never intended to do, is stressful for a lot of people.
The F5 tornado's path left thousands homeless and unsure of their next step. The city lifted a 60-day moratorium on new construction in July. Building began again in Joplin. Now, almost 8 months later, empty home sites are still here. But Sherwood Forest Homes will have finished their third house by the end of January.
We set a goal early on that we didn't want to lose population base.
Joplin leaders like City Manager Mark Rohr pressed FEMA to have housing alternatives in place, hoping to keep survivors nearby. Less than 70 days after the storm, the city and volunteers had cleared more than 2 million cubic yards of debris.
I think it's important psychologically for people to see the progress.
And on December 23rd, Joplin officials learned that more than 50% of families and businesses within the devastation zone had applied for permits to rebuild.
We're pleased, but not satisfied. We realize that we're only halfway there.
With a third of the city gone, Joplin is also looking to make the best out of one of the worst disasters in U.S. history.
The good things can come out of bad if you have the right approach.
A team of local residents and businesses called CART spent months gathering ideas. And the city plans to hire a master developer to carry out the team's recovery plan for the devastation zone.
We want to make sure that we take full advantage of that opportunity to rebuild and to rebuild better and stronger than we were before the storm.
In Joplin, Missouri, Stephanie Tierpak, News 3.